And I know that this is a habit of mine. When I dig into my numbers, whether it's my financial numbers or my marketing numbers, my mind goes immediately to the strategy and what's possible, what can be optimized, and how we can make it as best as possible, how we can make this as profitable as possible. I know that that's where my mind goes. And I have to remind myself what I want outside of business and set limits for myself before I decide what I want inside of my business. Welcome to the Business Edit Podcast, a podcast about redefining productivity for the modern woman in business and finding ways to work smarter, not harder, in business and life. I'm your host, Jade Boyd, an MBA, business minimalist, and productivity coach. I help overwhelmed business owners simplify and scale their service-based businesses by doing less but better. I help my clients create business minimalist strategies and systems that allow them to pursue ambitious goals while working at a human pace. On this podcast, we'll explore simple ways to grow your business with a life-first approach. If you're ready to scale your business, bring order to chaos, ditch the busy work, and spend more time living your life than managing your life, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Business Edit Podcast. Welcome to part 2 in the series of taking you behind the scenes of how I'm planning for 2025 as a business owner, everything marketing, goal setting, annual planning. And so if you missed part 1 last week, make sure you scroll back and listen to that episode first before you hit play on this one, because it's definitely going to set up the context for what we're talking about today. So in part 1, we talked about 3 different things that I'm doing to plan for 2025, and continuing that today, I have 3 more things that I am doing and planning and thinking about, but also might be helpful suggestions for you as well as you're planning for 2025. So another thing that I'm doing this year, and this isn't necessarily new this year, it's something that I've done every year, but it feels much, much more important of an exercise this year. And that is projecting my finances, but month by month, planning out my sales for every month of the year in 2025, and getting a very clear picture of what my business needs to make, what my expenses are, when they're going to hit throughout the year, and how much I'm going to pay myself every month next year. And if you listen to the episode that we did recently where I had 9 different women who were both full-time business owners and stay-at-home moms, they talked about what it took for them to keep their kids at home while also growing their business. This is something that I heard from a lot of them as well, that you have to be really, really realistic about your season of life and how much time and energy you have to give to your business, and set realistic goals for yourself and understand your capacity. And so now more than ever, I'm definitely looking at this through the lens of wanting to work 2 days a week and not have to be available for my business outside of that, and maximizing the amount of money that I can make and the amount of people that I can serve, while knowing during this season of my life, or at least for the first 6+ months until we get into a daycare, and even then it's going to be part-time daycare, I know I have a very limited of hours that I'm willing to give to my business in 2025, and I'm setting my financial goals accordingly. And more than one of my clients recently has thrown out, like the 6-figure year mark, which I know is a very exciting milestone for business owners. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have big goals, but you should set them and break them down month by month, know the offers that you're going to have to sell, know the prices you're going to have to sell them at, know how you're going to pursue those goals and prioritize your projects throughout the year, while also making time for your personal life first. And big jumps in business usually only happen with luck or with hustle, one or the other. It's very rare to 10x your income without getting a little bit lucky or without having to hustle pretty hard to hit that, right? That's just the reality. And if you're not willing to hustle, like I am not willing to hustle, and you can't plan to be lucky, hopefully you do get lucky and get a great feature or get a dream client who refers you to everybody and is free marketing for you. I wish all of those things for you, but you can't always plan for those things, right? And so set financial goals that feel realistic, and also break them down and know exactly what you're going to have to do, and make sure you have the time to do those things every month in order to hit your goals. And so, like I said, this year it's going to hit a little bit differently, because never have I ever had so little time, or I won't say had little time, never have I ever been willing to give so little time to my business. So I know things are going to have to look different, and that is going to have to play into what my financial goals are for the year as well. The next thing that I'm doing this year that is definitely hitting different is really forcing myself to look internally rather than externally when I'm planning for 2025 and not compare myself or set my goals based on what I see other people doing, but getting really honest with myself and being really internally reflective, thinking about what actually brought me joy this year, what are actually the best things that I'm going to remember from this year, what wore me down and felt really exhausting this year, looking internally for like, what do I actually want to do? Not just what's going to make money or help me get to my goals, which if you are ambitious or an Enneagram 3 or a high achiever, that is often where our minds will immediately go, like, how can I hit these really big, exciting goals? And if you're thinking about your business in a bubble, then it's really easy to go there, which is why I reflect on my life and my business at the same time, and definitely reflect on my life first and the goals that I have for my personal health, for my relationships, for my home, for my overall well-being before I decide how does my business play a role in that. Because if you go the opposite way, it's very, very easy to suck yourself into gigantic business goals that won't actually make you happy and might actually leave you feeling really exhausted and unfulfilled at the end of the year, even if you hit them. So instead of comparing myself to every other business coach out there who is in, most of them a different season of life than I am and value different things than I do, I am trying to be really, really intentional about looking internally and being really honest with myself about what I actually want next year and what's important to me. And I know that this is a habit of mine. When I dig into my numbers, whether it's my financial numbers or my marketing numbers, my mind goes immediately to the strategy and what's possible, what can be optimized, and how we can make it as best as possible, how we can make this as profitable as possible. I know that that's where my mind goes. And I have to remind myself what I want outside of business and set limits for myself before I decide what I want inside of my business. And if you can relate to that, let me know, because it's very hard for me to stick to, and it's something that I have to try really, really hard to do this year. And this third one is actually a pretty big one. I think every year prior to this in my business, I have been able to set big goals and goals in general. Like, I was all for them. And this year, I'm not sure that I'm going to set goals. I think that I'm going to focus more on systems than on goals. And I might dive deeper into this into a future episode, depending on how my retreat goes as I get into things and what that looks like. But there's a few reasons why I'm considering focusing more on my systems than on setting big goals this year. So first of all, I know this, it's general wisdom, but also I've learned this by experience, that if you enjoy the process or the system, if it is sustainable, then the goals naturally follow, right? If you can stay in the game long enough and really enjoy what you're doing and the things that you're doing lead to results, then if you stay in it and you have good systems in place that allow you to stay in it, then the goals are going to be inevitable if you can be patient. And I know that if I'm able to perfect my processes and iterate my processes so that they can fit into the 2-day work week that I want, that it's going to help me build a sustainable business over time. Even if I'm not going to hit a big, exciting revenue goal next year, I know that it's going to set my business up for success and to be long-term a sustainable business that I'm not going to have to quit because I burn myself out or because I stop enjoying what I'm doing and begin to resent any time or energy that I'm putting into my business, right? And so I'm definitely revamping my systems and getting even more optimized, automating as much as possible, simplifying as much as possible, and really eliminating the things that are not driving results in my business. Even if they're a good use of my time and deliver some results, I'm going to take a really hard look at that and have to be as streamlined as possible next year, which is honestly something that I'm really excited to dig into, to shift my energy towards the things that are working the best instead of being able to spend my time on things that drive like good results, but not the best results, right? Which is something that I've been able to get away with up until this point, but not something that I'm going to be able to do next year since I have these hard and fast boundaries on my time. And let me just say that there are definitely seasons of life. And like I said, up until this point, that was the season that I was in, when big goals are incredibly powerful, incredibly motivating, and can be really, really helpful to set. And there are also seasons of life when they are not 100% necessary and may even be unhelpful. So Don't make up goals just to have them. If you aren't wildly excited about them and in a place where you can realistically put the time and effort into accomplishing them, then you're really just setting yourself up for failure. So be realistic about the season of your life and the season of your business that you're in, and make sure that you're defining what success looks like for yourself. And that might not mean big goals, but that also might not mean setting goals at all. And then the last thing I'll say about setting systems and not goals, I'm not saying that I don't have an idea of what I want to make financially next year. I'm just not really thinking about it as a goal because, like I said, I'm really iterating on what's already working in my business, and I know every business owner needs to project their finances. So that is not like an optional thing. Don't hear me say that you don't need to think about your finances when you're thinking about next year, but I would see projecting my finances and planning out when I'm going to launch certain offers and knowing what my capacity is for those offers, having a marketing plan that leads to those offers. I'm still going to do all of those things, but I'm already to the point of in my business where I am paying myself consistently and finances are a little bit more predictable. So other than changing things in my systems and, my marketing processes and stuff like that, how I'm getting people into those offers, those are more projects than goals. And I think that's something that a lot of business owners get hung up on, and they think that they have 20 different goals, but then you go through the list and I would bet that a lot of them are just projects. So a project is like a start and finish thing. You know that if you have X amount of hours, you can sit down and crank it out. So changing anything to my marketing strategy or what I'm doing in terms of podcasting or, planning out my content, sending emails to my list, planning a lunch, those are all projects, even though they help me get to a goal. If my goal is a financial goal or the number of people that I want to work with this year, whatever that might be, I definitely have my capacity in mind and how many people I want in my offers, but I'm more so focused on the processes and the systems and kind of perfecting and getting better at those things rather than putting too much pressure on hitting the overall goal, if that makes sense. And then there's probably a lot of other things that you might be considering a goal that could actually be a project or even a task. So one big thing, like I said, next year I want to work 2 days a week. And a lot of business owners might think that that is a goal. Like if you're not able to work 2 days a week yet, that could potentially be a goal because it might take a lot of work to get to that and you're not sure how to do that. But for me, I already have a really good idea of what it takes. And honestly, right now, I'm pretty much working 2 days a week. I'm just letting more fall through the cracks than I would like to. So I'd like to actually eliminate those things from my business and tweak my strategy instead of just like letting the unimportant things drop. So for me, working 2 days a week next year is literally just blocking off 2 days of my week to work and figuring out how to get regular childcare. And that is definitely not even really a project. I would say that's kind of like a few tasks that I can do in a day. And I think overall in my life and this year, and something that I'm learning and reflecting on just as a person, as a human, as a mom, as a business owner, is that I really do want to just focus on enjoying the journey and not get so caught up on striving to reach a certain destination, whether that's like with our house, we moved and I have so many like huge things that I want to do here. I want to paint everything. I want to do all the projects. I love interior design, but also I want to enjoy my life and not spend every free minute and every free Saturday we have working on our house. I want to make time to do things that are actually fun. And that's something that we fell into with our old house because we were renovating it. And then we got into a trap of like, we're literally living in like destroyed drywall and we have to spend all of our free time fixing these things to make our situation livable. And that's not something that I want to recreate at our new house. And I think the same can be said for business. You can look at it with the perspective of like you're striving to hit a certain goal and you're not going to be happy till you get there. But, spoiler alert, you'll probably get there and realize it's not as great as you thought it might be. Or you can focus on enjoying the process of building your business, really loving what you do, being excellent at what you do, and ultimately you might hit the same results anyway. So again, like I said, I'm not against big goals or setting goals in general. It's definitely something I recommend for a lot of business owners, especially if you're not to the point where you can pay yourself consistently. There's probably some goals in there and some planning that needs to happen, but that's just not the season that I think I'm going to be in for 2025. And I will leave it at that. Like I said, I might dive deeper into that in a future episode. So if you did listen to this one before part 1, make sure you go back and listen to part 1 of this series of how I'm planning for 2025. And if you already did, I hope that you took something away from this episode and are able to implement this in your own business as you're thinking about what the next year has for you. So until next time, business minimalists, take what you learned today and get 1% better this week. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Business Edit podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd be so grateful if you take a screenshot and share it on Instagram, tagging me at jadeboyd.co. I'm on a mission to empower a new generation of women to become the types of wives, moms, and business owners that they've always wanted to be. Because empowered women change their families and communities for the better, and this is how we'll change the world. Sharing your takeaways from this episode on Instagram will help more women in business discover helpful episodes and level up in life and business each week. Don't forget to check out the show notes for the tools and resources mentioned in today's episode, because good ideas don't grow businesses. Action does. I'll see you next time on the Business Edit podcast.